Dear Dr. Becky, no matter how hard I try, conversations with my partner often end in misunderstandings or arguments. Sometimes it feels like we're speaking two different languages, and it leaves me frustrated and discouraged. Why does communication break down so easily in relationships, and what can we do to fix it? Sincerely, Ed from Montana.
Wow. Thank you so much for writing in. That is just such an honest and very relatable question because, frankly, many people find themselves feeling like their words just really aren't landing or that their loved one just doesn't get it. And the truth is that communication challenges are number one difficulties in most relationships. They can make it or break it. So, and it doesn't matter what type of a relationship. It could be between partners, parents, children, coworkers, or even close friends. So, we all know that communication is the foundation of any healthy relationship. And with that said, it's really important to take the time to work on how we communicate because it is often where relationships struggle the most. So, thank you for writing in and giving me the opportunity to actually talk about the top 5 reasons that communication breaks down. And more importantly, I want to give you some practical techniques that I hope will help you and those watching. And while I do this, we're going to do a little role playing so you can see the techniques in action. Are you ready? Okay. First, let's talk about one that you've probably heard, and it's called active listening. Well, active listening cannot be overshadowed. It is really key, especially when a partner does not feel like they're being heard, or maybe they just feel like they're misunderstood. So, this lack of attention and focus can really hurt feelings. And as you probably know, it can cause a lot of friction. Well, there is a counter technique, and it's called reflective listening. Reflective listening is a little technique that involves listening attentively and then paraphrasing what the other person has said to confirm that you're understanding their main points. This is so very important because oftentimes we're drifting and thinking about what our response is rather than focusing on what they're saying and also the intent of what they're trying to tell us. So let's see how this works.
I feel overwhelmed with all the responsibilities at home.
It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed by everything you have to manage at home. Did I get that right?
Well, what do you think? It's kind of powerful to watch in action, huh? All right, good. We're going to move on to the second type of communication error, which is just that misunderstanding and assumptions. Assuming what the other person is thinking or feeling without clarifying what they're really truly thinking and feeling can lead to lots of misunderstandings and great conflict. We've all done it, right? But good news is there is a counter technique, and it is simply using clarification questions. So simple and so easy, but we oftentimes forget to do it. So when we clarify what the person is trying to tell us, what they are wanting us to understand, what is important to them, we can really learn a lot and then they can feel that they've been heard. So let's watch this happen.
You never help with the chores. Can you give me an example of a time when you needed help and I wasn't there?
All right, we're making progress. We're learning some counter techniques to some of these communication breakdowns. I have another common breakdown that I am guessing most of you are familiar with, and that is our third one on the list, emotional reactivity, which can really escalate conflicts very quickly. Because when we react emotionally rather than responding thoughtfully, right, it can really hinder constructive communication. And frankly, it often doesn't even happen at that point. So there is a counter technique, and that is learning emotional regulation. When we can help our emotions. Emotional regulation involves recognizing your emotions and managing them by taking a moment to calm down before responding. That is the key. And you may even need to take a few moments, a few minutes, or even a few hours if needed. But when you're able to step back and control your emotions, it is empowering. So let's see the difference between Jamie and Alex when they learn to manage their emotions.
You always ignore me when I talk about my day.
I can see you're upset. Let's talk about how I can be more attentive when you're sharing about your day.
That's what we call much better communication, right? And it's so much nicer when we don't have to have those negative feelings, any anger and hurt and pain that is derived from not regulating our emotions. All right, here's another one that some of you are probably way too familiar with, and that's avoidance, right? Avoidance of difficult topics. Because I know they can be hard. A lot of times we really don't want to talk about difficult topics because we know they're going to be challenging. But unfortunately, if we don't, they can often lead to unresolved issues and, frankly, a lot of resentment over time. So, we have another counter technique in order to address this issue. And it is, again, very simple, but really powerful. And that is to schedule a check in, a regular check in. If you can set aside time to have a regular, dedicated time to check in about important or difficult topics without distractions, you can really benefit each other because you're not blindsided. And you get in the habit of talking about difficult things on a regular basis, which makes it a lot easier to structure your conversations. And while you're checking in, I always tell people, don't forget to check in about the good stuff and the good things that are happening in your relationship too. All right, let's see how this works.
I feel like we never talk about our finances.
You're right. It's a hard topic for me to talk about. How about we set aside time every Sunday evening to go over our finances together?
Check-ins also help us to be heard and understood. So I hope that you saw the power in the check-in and that you will implement it in your life. Lastly, we have one more communication breakdown area that I'm going to talk about today. This one's pretty common, and that's disrespectful communication. And that can look like all kinds of things: derogatory language, unfortunately, yelling, screaming, put downs, belittling, just so many things, right? And unfortunately, it really happens way too often in relationships, which can really damage the trust and respect in the relationship. And it can happen in really obvious ways or even very subtle ways. But to improve this, we can simply practice respectful rephrasing. So, what is respectful rephrasing? Well, it involves expressing your concerns or your needs, but using respectful and non confrontational language. Because if you really want to resolve a problem, fix an issue, get to an agreement, be understood, you really want to use respectful and non confrontational language because it works. Let's watch and just see how great this works.
You're so lazy. You never clean up.
I feel really stressed when the house is messy. Can we work together to keep it clean?
All right, you see the difference there? It's significant. Again, if you're struggling with this, give yourself a little time out, give yourself a little break, get yourself in a good mindset. Think about what you want to say in advance and how you want to say it. It makes a big difference. Importantly, just simply recognizing the common communication breakdown that might be happening in your relationships allows you the opportunity to apply these counter techniques that we've talked about. And then you can build stronger, healthier relationships with your children, your coworkers, your spouse, or whoever. So remember, effective communication is really key to understanding and being understood. All right, you guys, thank you for writing. Thank you for joining me. If you want more tips on healthy relationships, subscribe to our channel because we're going to be talking about this a lot further. If you found this video helpful, of course, give it a thumbs up and share it. And write in. I love to hear from you. Don't forget, your brain matters. So you matter. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.